So I'm curious about how diet impacts the nutritional and health status of dogs and cats. Hi, I'm Kelly Swanson. I'm currently the director of the Division of Nutritional Sciences here at the University of Illinois. I'm also a professor in the Department of Animal Sciences and have been leading a lab focused on dog and cat nutrition over the past 20 years or so. My research laboratory has worked in this area and really with the goal of improving the nutrition and health of dogs and cats, not only in the United States, but all over the world. We work in three specific areas. And so since my PhD, I've really worked in the area of gastrointestinal health. With that now has come the microbiome, but we really have tested a lot of dietary fibers and biotic substances to maintain and promote gastrointestinal health in that space. Another area we work in is weight management with pets. Just like in people, unfortunately, obesity has a high incidence. And so we're trying to look at dietary and management strategies to maintain a healthy body weight and improve metabolism. The last area we work in is really testing novel ingredients in diet formats. So there's a lot of novel proteins, novel fibers, and other functional ingredients that need testing before they're put into the pet food industry. And so we've done a lot of testing in that space. As part of that, again, these diet formats are also an interesting area. Traditionally, over the past 60, 70 years, most of the foods were in kibble or a canned format. So using extrusion to make kibble diets similar to cereals and pastas and things in the human food system. And then also cans and pouches have been created using a retort process. But more recently, a lot of people want pet foods that look more similar to their food. And so from a nutritionist, what's important to me, I really don't care about the format, but is the nutrition appropriate? And so from a nutrient perspective, does it meet the needs of the pet? But also, is it processed accurately or appropriately? And how does it affect the animals? And so seeing how they consume the foods and how is stool quality maintained, how digestible are the foods, things like that.
When you're at a dinner party, what is it that your friends most want to ask you about their pets?
Oftentimes, the question I get is, what should I feed my pet? And so it's usually not an easy answer. Before I give any answers, I'll ask a bunch of questions. Is it a dog or a cat? What's their health status? What's their age? It's really, important to match those things up. I also kind of talk a little bit about their preferences. And so what type of food would you like to feed? A kibble that you can put in the bowl and can kind of, it's pretty stable. Would you like some other format? And because it just from a convenience perspective or even a price perspective, they might differ a little bit. So I ask questions about that. My typical answer is if you're feeding something that the pet likes it and you like to feed it, I would stay where you are. But it is amazing and it's really difficult to keep up with all of the new diets that are on the market. It's really, really amazing when you think about the ingredients, the variety of ingredients that are used, the different nutrient targets. Some of them, if they're on a therapeutic diet, of course, those have to be very specific and carefully formulated. But if it's a healthy animal over-the-counter foods, there's a lot of variety there. And then, of course, you look at the diet format. How is it processed? What form is it coming in? Is this sitting in your pantry? Is it in your freezer, in your refrigerator? And then, what does it look like when you're giving it to the pet itself?
Can you tell me more about what you're researching related to the microbiome in pets?
My lab and a few other labs around the United States, but also the world, have really kind of, I think, established kind of the foundation of what does the gut microbiome look like in a dog or a cat. Of course, there's many factors: age, disease, medications, the environment. Different exposures will kind of influence that, especially exposures early in life. But what we're really focused on is, okay, here's the microbiome. How can we influence that through a dietary, either a supplement or a complete diet? Dietary fibers, prebiotics, probiotics, and other similar substances have been, studied for many years, actually. We now have the tools we can learn and I think understand more why things are beneficial versus not. And so we're not only defining what the microbiome is, we're trying to intervene and promote and support a healthy gut microbiome. And so the microbiome can have or has an effect on immune function. The gut is filled with immune cells. And so that's an important barrier there to keep potential pathogens or other toxins in the gut not being absorbed into the body. And so immune function, that gut barrier, supporting just intestinal and microbial metabolism is very important. So over the past, several years, we've been testing various things to do just that.
And how could pet owner help their pet improve their microbiome?
I think similar to people, and this is where the processing comes into place a little bit as well. That certainly looking for diets that have I'd say kind of a balance of fiber. It might be difficult to kind of see that, but different, just like in humans, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, things like that. These ingredients are going to provide natural sources of fiber in pet foods. There can be also more similar to humans, I guess. There are more purified supplements. Those can be in supplement form, or they might be in a complete and balanced pet food as well. And you can see that this is inulin, or it's a fructooligosaccharide, or a specific dietary fiber might be there specifically on the label. So you can kind of look at that. That's something that's coming, and the whole industry is adapting to. Some of the fibers, if they're more insoluble, a lot of those coming from grains might be insoluble and not as fermentable. Those are good for regularity, laxation, just keeping motility kind of normalized. But then there's other fibers that, especially some from fruits and vegetables, some of these prebiotics that are more fermentable. They're providing, again, the food for the bacteria in the gut. They're not digestible by the host. They're going to get to the large intestine. They can be fermented there. Too much of a good thing can lead to loose stools, but the proper amount in a blend really can provide that regularity, but also the benefits to the bacteria, and the metabolism of the bacteria kind of consequently improves the metabolism of the gut and the overall host, really. So this host microbiome relationship is something that our lab and other labs are really studying.
And what are some of the things that you see in pets that have a healthy microbiome, gut microbiome?
I think everyone, if you're walking your dog or you're cleaning up the backyard with your cat, you're cleaning the litter box. We all know what's easy to pick up, what's convenient to pick up from a pet owner perspective, and what is a complete mess. It's kind of this fine balance. It's not all about fiber. There are other, again, how digestible are the other nutrients of the diet, the protein, fat, and starches that are there. Again, if they're properly processed, there should be a fairly high level of digestibility, so not a huge amount of stool that's there. Along with that, we think about odor. A lot of that metabolism in the gut relates to the odor. And so it's always going to smell based on what it is, but the level of odor can be very different depending on what you're feeding the pet. And again, some of these substances, the prebiotics and the dietary fibers, can reduce that level of odor as well. So it can be healthy for the gut, but it's also can be a kind of a benefit to the people in the house as well.
What's your opinion about homemade diets that pet owners make for their pets?
There are some probably clinical patients that maybe require a homemade diet if they're in consultation with veterinary nutritionists, but I'd say in general, for most pets, I would recommend a commercial food. Given the wide variety of commercial diets that are out there in many different formats now, including those that really look very similar to a homemade diet, I would highly recommend that. Companies, especially the last 10 years, have done a really good job of formulating foods using ingredients, again, complementary ingredients to meet all of their needs. They're processed correctly. You shouldn't have to worry about any deficiencies or toxicities, things like that. In the past, there have been case studies demonstrating that it's just really difficult to formulate a food on your own. There are recipes on the internet, and people might tell you, here's what to feed, but it's very difficult to do that. And so I really recommend feeding a commercial food for long-term safety and wellness of the pet. That's the best thing to do.
Has your research on the gut microbiome changed how you perceive your health? And so the opposite way, kind of instead of us to our pets, what you see and how you maybe change your behavior of eating and the types of things that you eat?
When I came into graduate school and really focused on nutrition, I tried to improve my diet more. Not that I had a horrible diet before, but having more fruits and vegetables, different colors of green leafy vegetables, healthy lifestyle in general, all kind of plays a role in there. And some people have bonded with their pet to say, I'm going to go exercise and we're going to go on a walk every couple days, with their dog. And so I think there could be some benefits there. From a comparative nutritionist perspective, we can see what do we do that might apply to pets, but I think it goes, you know, what maybe works with them and can kind of apply back to us as well. I think there's a lot of similarities there.
What's in the future of your area of research?
As you understand more, we're going to have probably more diets, more variety of diets. But I think we'll get to a point where I don't know if we need a diet for every single pet, but I think there will be more personalization like there is in the human side, where we go from just meeting the essential nutrient needs to getting over closer to a space of optimal nutrition for that pet, again, in that life stage, that health status. Can we improve the diet, the nutrition of that animal? And so I think as we learn more, I think we can do that. One thing that is also very important is sustainability. And this is something that's not new and it's certainly not going to go away. But, whether if you think about the food system in general, I think most people think about sustainability. They think about the human food system. But there are a lot of byproducts or secondary products that from, pick a plant or an animal or something else. Some things you consume the entire product, I will say, but other things you don't. And there's these secondary products. Well, what do we do with them? The pet food industry, the livestock industry use a lot of those byproducts. And so it's all kind of interconnected. And so, um, again, it's nothing new, but I think there's more emphasis on that as well, that you'll see more and more focus on how can we more efficiently produce food? How can we utilize or recycle some of these things and then, avoid food waste as well? And that recycling kind of comes into play there. Sustainability, that could be a whole podcast in itself. So I won't go down that path anymore, but I think that's another important thing that we will certainly see.
Can you tell me something you're working on at the moment?
We're always working with the gut microbiota, but one interesting thing I think is, again, looking at these different dietary formats and how they perform. I had a PhD student recently test 5 or 6 different diets. And so our diet that was kind of traditional format was in a canned diet made by Retort. But then she had a raw food, a food that was freeze dried, a food that was produced using sous vide, so in kind of its own little package, as well as one that's steamed as well. And so different processing techniques, exactly the same diet formula. And using these different techniques, now we had different formats of food. So, feeding them, of course, they're all delicious diets. They were formulated to be that way, but looking at how digestible were the diets, metabolically, different blood parameters, blood lipids, how were they modified? We looked at kind of stool quality and gut health. In our system, I guess all of our animals that we're always using are healthy adults. So we don't have a way to kind of look at skin and coat or energy status or anything like that. But that would be, I think, in consequent studies, especially if we can use client-owned animals, that would be an area that could really be looked at as well to see how do these diets perform. They're very popular, but how do they perform against each other? So that's an example of what we're doing.
And maybe if you can tell me why you went into this field and why you decided to study this.
I'll go back a few decades. I grew up on a farm, so from the time I can remember, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and that's really until all the way through high school into undergraduate, my undergraduate training. I had that mindset, and I was in 4-H. I had animals on the farm, and so I was very involved with that in addition to sports and things. What happened about junior year as an undergraduate, I had a nutrition course, that nature versus nurture, and that you can think about the genetics and other things, but that nurture side of it, diet's an important part of that. And so I think it was just very interesting to me, the importance of nutrition. So I took a second nutrition course. Long story short, I ended up taking a few courses as an undergraduate student and really speaking with those instructors who still I look up to and are mentors today. And I really kind of diverted after a while from vet school to graduate school. And that's how I got into nutrition. But even at that point, I was kind of comparative. I was a comparative nutrition and I still am today, but over time, I really got interested into all of the interesting aspects of dogs and cats. And I always had dogs and cats on the farm. And just, there's so many similarities with humans, again, from a lifestyle perspective, from what's important with livestock animals. Oftentimes we want them to grow rapidly. We want them to be efficient, safe, healthy foods for people. With dogs and cats, it's about health and longevity. It's a very different focus. It's not about growing fast. It's health and longevity. How can we have, again, it's maybe a pie in the sky idea, but can we have optimal nutrition? Can we extend quality of life? Can we extend, the lifespan of the pets? And so thinking about that and just my own, again, nutrition and health, I guess it really seemed to kind of synergize and think I really like this area. So that's how I really got focused into dog and cat. And then from that point, it's I guess you kind of have to go where what are the key issues then? So obesity is an issue, gut health issues are fairly common, and so that's kind of I think that dictated kind of what specifically I work in pets, where are the problems? Can we solve some of those issues? And so, um, but yeah, everyone has their path, I guess, and that's how I got into the area of pet nutrition.
It was really wonderful to talk to you. I mean, you're passionate about what you do and you're focused in such a way which is I find amazing.
Curious by Nature is a production of Newswise. More than 7,000 journalists get the Newswise wires. Visit newswise.com and find out how to spread your news today.